The number one thing that I would want you to do, move towards, is getting the phones out of bedrooms at night. That's critical. So maybe just having a conversation with them is, one of the things I've learned is online predators target kids at night.
Mandy, welcome to Focus on the Family for the first time.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you and your husband initially said no to technology. How did that work for you?
Well, she kept getting exposed to things,
Okay.
right? She would come home and ask me questions. And I remember one night, my husband, he was like, let's just get out of here. Let's move somewhere where there's no Wi-Fi. We grow our own vegetables, And that's what you feel like, because their innocence
So
is being
true.
stolen. And you just want to protect your babies.
Yeah.
And every night we would just pray about, how are we going to parent this? I mean, this was 11 years ago, so nobody was talking about it as much back then. And I remember one night we were praying, and he grabbed my hand, and he was like, we can't say no to all technology. This is the world they're growing up in. And I think what we need to do is teach them how to use technology like we're going to teach them how to drive.
Yeah, that's good.
And when he said that, I was like, well, what do you mean by that? And he said, we're not going to start out going 70 miles an hour down the highway. It's going to be a step-by-step process. I'm going to start with them in the driveway, and we probably won't leave the first time. That intrigued me, and I was like, okay, maybe we could do that. Maybe we could create this experiment in our home where we're walking our kids through a step-by-step process on how to use technology safely.
And I like the idea. It's almost, we often talk about inoculation. It's not that we're going to keep them from it. It's helping them to decide how to manage it, right? How to not look at something as best as possible, and how to control those appetites, etc. But it has to come with a lot of fear. I mean, because on the one hand, we're acknowledging there's no fortress we could create that's going to keep our child completely safe. I think for a lot of moms and dads, that's disheartening. Wow, it's made this battle even harder.
It was scary at first, and that's one of my points. I had to process that, me and Jesus and my husband. I had to process the fear. But also, her being exposed without technology, it just created this awareness in me that not giving her a phone till she was 30, that didn't keep her safe. So I had to dig deep and figure out what is the solution and how are we going to tackle this in our home.
So much of whether it's YouTube or, I look up on YouTube how to get a fix-it solution to a home problem, whatever it might be. So there's a lot of good that comes with it. But what is lurking out there for the parents that aren't aware? What are some of the things that kids can be exposed to in those same good tools where bad things are happening?
Well, we're teaching kids watch on a screen and then emulate, right? Our washer breaks and we pull out the iPad and do everything the person tells us to do to save $800, right? Because
totally.
We're trying to fix it. So they're watching that in us. And oftentimes they are watching and emulating something bad, and then we're getting mad at them. And instead, I think we need to tweak our thinking. There's a thought process that happens between the watch and the behavior, but are we teaching that? And I wasn't. I was missing that whole point of it. The other thing too with YouTube, it's evolved since I've been in this over a decade. Now I actually consider YouTube a social media platform, because if you think about it, there's YouTube Shorts. So you're scrolling just like TikTok, and you can comment, you can interact with strangers. So I know a lot of parents don't think of that as social media, but it actually is.
Yeah.
And so we always have to be constantly evolving with the apps, because they're updating and changing, and we need to be staying updated on that.
Yeah. And again, back to how to teach them to manage this. Do you always get a win, or do you get some losses?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, I know I will crawl in bed with my husband at night, and sometimes he will say to me, Mandy, can you put your phone away? We're constantly connected to work, to friends. Right. And, we struggle with this, but we hand our kid a phone at 16 and we expect them to have it perfectly figured out. And so I say, look in the mirror, parents. If we are struggling to have the healthy balance, they are going to struggle. So we have to be the model here. And this is where we have to look in the mirror and admit when we're not good with our phones.
When you describe healthy balance, that's so subjective. And I can see parents who are talking to friends, other side of the country, whatever it might be, highly justifiable. Mandy, I'm staying connected to my relatives and to my friends, even at the dinner table, but it just takes a minute to say hello. What are you having tonight? Here's what we're having tonight. Picture, right? Send it off. I mean, you need to control those appetites. It's what you're saying, because you are being an example to the kids around the table.
Yeah, that's true. I would say one of the things is to be very clear about your boundaries and expectations from early on. So a couple things that I found really worked in our home is no phones in bedrooms at night, no phones at meals, no phones behind closed doors.
That's good.
Those sorts of things. And then if you start that when they're 4 with the family iPad, when they get a phone at 15 and 16, it's just standard operating procedure that I don't have a screen in my bed at night.
Yeah.
And so starting that early, and a lot of times we think parenting a phone is when they get a phone. Parenting a phone starts at 4 years old.
Before the phone.
Yeah, before. You are laying guidelines in place for your children to make sure they have that healthy balance.
Yeah, we had that. Gene was really good at, no phones at the table, charge in the kitchen overnight, no phones upstairs in the bedrooms, etc. Except 1 a.m, I'd hear this. And our oldest, Trent, he'd be down there trying to find it. Certainly, we caught on, and we started hiding that phone.
Hide the phone.
But, I mean, he was desperate to connect with somebody,
Yeah.
So, mostly his friends.
Mandy, I'm thinking there might be some parental hesitation to even talk about all this with their children because they don't have a handle on what you were just describing a moment ago about controlling their own appetite, Jim, as you put it. So what's the grace moment there, or how do they get unstuck in that?
Yeah, I think this is the moment that you have to look in the mirror and really be honest with Jesus and you. And that is what is going to make this work in your home. And apologize to your kids when you get it wrong. When you get it wrong, when they're trying to tell you a story and you're on your phone and they're like, are you even listening to me? That's not to, you guys are looking at each other.
I hope I have never done that,
Yeah.
actually, because that's something you want to guard against,
Yeah.
because you're setting an example.
Yeah.
Well, and we're busy and we are multitasking a lot. And it's very easy to be like, I'm responding to a work text. Can you give me a minute?
Ironically, I would say I did that far better with the boys than I did with Gene. I would tend to engage the phone with Gene because I can do 2 things at once.
He really can, by the way.
But it didn't give her my full attention.
Yeah.
But I think, ironically, with the boys, I think I'd set it down to make sure I was that example, but not with my spouse.
Yeah.
So you got to look at all areas.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, too, we need to look past the phone. I mean, yes, technology has created a lot of questions on how we're going to handle this. But when I was on this journey trying to figure out, what is the solution to keep my kids safe? I kind of went through them all. First of all, not giving her phone till she was 30. That didn't keep her safe, so that's off the list. I'm not going to be that hyper.
But I like the goal.
Yes. And I believe in delaying for sure.
Yeah.
But also, once she earned a phone, it was almost like all I wanted to do was have an app that mirrored her phone where I could check everything. And I'm an advocate for being in your kid's phone. Absolutely. Have the passwords, do random phone checks, be engaged in their online world. But the real solution that I think God gave me is, restrictions are great. Use them. But it's really about the relationship.
Well, and also emancipating them. That's a word we've used here with Dr. Ken Wilgus.
Yeah.
You're trying to emancipate your children into adulthood. So you need to teach them what is good and what is healthy and what is unhealthy. That just takes a lot of effort.
It's hard work. And I think that's why a lot of parents don't want to do it. Honestly, it's why I didn't want to do it. I wanted to get an app to monitor everything and send me reports. And those things are great. They're great tools. But you can't do that and take your hands off the wheel and be like, okay, we're done. I don't have to do anything else with technology.
Well, if you think about it, it's a lot like church. We allow church to teach our kids. They're going to get that at Sunday school, so I don't have to be overly engaged there in doing devotional with the kids and all that. That is so far from the truth, right? You should be the core, and the church should be giving you the additional supplemental content.
The support.
Same thing here. Let me ask you this, gaming apps, some of the dangers of online stuff. Games are kind of fun. People like doing it, whether it's the little puzzles or if it's gaming. And then people out there don't always have the right desires for that relationship with your child. You got strange people out there looking to groom your child for their own darkness. But speak to those two things.
Yeah, so I grew up in the generation of, my mom telling me, don't get in the car with the guy offering you candy, stranger danger.
Right.
Of course, we still have to worry about our kids being kidnapped, absolutely. But now that has shifted because of technology. Mm-hmm. Now your kids can be next to you on the family sofa, playing Roblox with who they think is an 8-year-old kid. But it's actually a 72-year-old sex trafficking pimp building a relationship with your kid in your home. So the strangers are coming into our homes through the Xbox, through the PlayStation, and they are creating relationships with our children. And we need to bring awareness to that. We need to educate ourselves on that and make sure our kids know of the red flags of what to look for.
Really good.
Hey, allow me to interrupt for just a moment here to say how much we appreciate you watching. Now, if you find value in this content, subscribe by clicking below. It'll be a big help to us. Let's go ahead and return to the show.
Mandy, you and your husband finally decided to get a phone for your daughter. Now, your daughter's out in the audience, so we may have to bring her in here in a minute. But how did you do? How did you navigate that? And was it kind of learn as you go?
Well, it was, but a couple key things we did was she earned it. And when I say earned, I mean I would look for things. Normally kids play devices before they get a phone, a family iPad, or even your own phone. They're communicating with their friends on your phone. And so what I would look for is when something, an inappropriate word would pop up on an app or something that she knew was not okay, that she would confide in me when she was playing my phone. And when she would do that, those were key indicators to me that she could be safe online because she was talking to me and reporting it to me. And she earned a phone. And I will say this too, no social media at first. So many times a kid is gifted a phone and they open it up and it's a free-for-all. That's going 70 miles an hour down the freeway.
Right.
It is earn one social media platform at a time. And I would say the first couple months, there's no social media. And so you earn it step by step and you get on the same platform and you learn it with them. And I know some parents are like, I hate social media. I'm not going to do it. Listen, your kids will show you how to use it. They are so brilliant. They know, they love to teach us new things. But, say, how does this work? How do you DM? That's a direct message. Have your kids teach you in this world too, so that you're involved with them.
Yeah, and this is so good. I want to get into the solutions because you give parents 10 ideas on how to create a culture of conversation, which I think is brilliant in your home. And let's walk through those. Maybe if you want to list them or you want to hit a couple of them. And of course, people, to get all 10, just get a copy of the book, and John will give you those details in a minute. But go ahead and hit what you think would be most helpful.
Yeah, so I think one of them that's really, really important is when my daughter, she earned a phone. She didn't have social media at first, and then she earned her first social media platform. So we were walking through that. And I was learning it, and there were certainly moments of, we've messed up. We shouldn't have done this. It was a true experiment. But I would wake up every day and just pray, Lord, don't let me miss the teachable moments. Let me be intentional. Anything that she says to me, awaken me to that so I can speak into it. And one day she turned the corner with her phone in her hand, and I knew with the look on her face, it was going to be a moment. And she said, Mom, I'm scrolling through Instagram, and our friends from church went to a wedding, and it was a beautiful wedding. And they posted it, and it said #wedding. And she said, I clicked that because I wanted to see pretty dresses. And she said, Mom, this popped up. In that moment, old Mandy literally would have been like, I tried to be cool Instamom, but we are done. That is of Satan and we're done. Throwing it away, deleting the app. That's what old Mandy would have done. New Mandy, and Matt, when I told him this story, he's like, there's no way you responded that way. I'm like, yes, I did. He was like, that was Jesus. But new Mandy, this is what new Mandy did. New Mandy takes the phone, puts it face down, and I look at my daughter and I say, I am so proud of you. You saw something that made you feel like, oh, this is not normal. And you could have kept clicking, but instead you took that captive. You didn't go down that rabbit trail, and you trusted me with it. So because you trusted me, you get a new app today.
Wow.
Now, her eyes lit up, and I was an experiment, so I had to roll back a minute. I said, okay, it has to be mommy approved app.
It's just
not
any app.
It's not a free-for-all.
No, but I like the concept of that.
Well, I didn't know what I was doing in the moment.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing. And I phrase it in my book as avoid crazy parent mode.
Yeah.
Don't be me. Don't throw away the app or take away the phone when they confide in you. Because listen, all these years later, now I'm looking back on that moment. What that does is it creates an environment when your kid is exposed to something, they are going to hide it from you because they don't want to lose their device or lose the app. And that is creating a space where Satan is speaking harm into our children and they can't confide in us. Instead of switching to, thank you so much for telling me.
Yeah.
And what was even cooler in that moment that night, I crawled in bed with my daughter and I said, I'm having trouble getting those images out of my mind. Are you okay? Are you okay? And you guys,
so honest.
I mean, that's Deuteronomy 6, 6, and 7, right?
Yeah.
Talk when you're going to bed.
Yeah.
Like God knows what he's doing. And that night was so cool because we talked about, I looked at her, I mean, we were laying there in bed, but I said to her, honey, when you see things like that, you're going to go to school tomorrow and you're going to see people differently. And I don't want that for you. Like, I want you to protect your heart and mind. And also I said, we're more than objects. Like, we've got skills and talents and we're more than body parts.
Yeah.
And so, you're going to have to make a decision. This is readily available for your generation. And I want you to understand why it's not good for your heart and mind.
No, it's so good. And I think that avoiding of crazy parent mode is probably the toughest thing to do because you're reacting in the moment. And it's even touching our core fears ourselves, right, of our own. So we react, and then you're going to have to clean up on aisle 1 on that, and then move to the object lesson. A couple of the others: create a safe place, adopt a no secrets family policy. I like that. But you need to have that trust.
Yes.
Because if you've broken that trust, your kids are not going to come to you because they don't want to hear the lecture. That's critical.
Absolutely. Well, and I would say for any parent out there who are like, oh, I threw away the iPad last night when they showed me something on Roblox.
I boiled it in water.
I want to encourage you, because I've had to do this myself, so I know what this looks like. Go back and apologize to your kid. And it goes like this. I am so sorry that I yelled at you. I was not mad at you at all. In fact, you did everything right.
Right.
Something bad popped up and you showed it to me. You did everything right. And that's what I want you to keep doing. I'm sorry that I yelled. I'm mad because that shouldn't be on a kid's app, that you live in a world that shouldn't be on a kid's app. And I'm mad about that. But I'm not mad at you.
Yeah.
So if you
really good.
if you keep confiding in me, you and I are working together to keep you safe from all that.
Yeah.
That way it creates a team environment. You and your kid are working together to protect them from harm.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Describe what family screen guidelines should look like. I mean, everybody's struggling with this one. Don't have them. Have 14, 20. What is a good family screen policy?
Is it becoming an idol? Like, that's what you have to ask yourself. Can you live without it? If your snap streaks die tomorrow, are you going to have a meltdown? That should be a red flag in your teenager's mind that it's becoming an idol. We talk about that a lot in our home. Those core things about the bedrooms, the bathrooms, at mealtime, when you're with grandparents that you see for 2 minutes, are you on your screen? Are you talking to your grandparents? Core things like that, maintaining that healthy balance, I think is so important.
Really good. Mandy, right at the end here, speak to the mom or dad who has given in and really cast it away. Everybody's going to deal with this. You're going to deal with this. You'll figure it out. Kind of a hands-off approach. And they're hearing this going, uh-oh, what do I do now?
Yeah, well, first of all, what I would say is give yourself some grace. Like, we're all learning how to parent this in real time. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I would not go in guns blazing and say, I heard this podcast, no phones in bedrooms, no phones in bathrooms. Because here's the thing, your kids are going to hate you for that. And I don't want that. I don't want there to be a breakdown in a relationship. I think what you could do is have a real sincere conversation with your children and say, I think I messed up. I gave you your phone, you have it at night. I set no boundaries. Say the big things if your kid has a phone. And own your part. I messed up. I should have created some boundaries. I should have warned you that there's dangers on that, and I just didn't know, and I'm really sorry.
Think of the power of that as a parent, kind of fessing up that I blew it. I was looking the other way.
So can we have a reset? Can we have a reset? And I always tell parents, like, the number one thing that I would want you to do, move towards, is getting the phones out of bedrooms at night. That's critical. So maybe just having a conversation with them is, one of the things I've learned is online predators target kids at night, and they DM and they act like they're your friend, and they're not, and they get you into weird situations, and kids have literally been lost by suicide because of sextortion schemes like this. Yeah. So talk with them about that and explain the why behind it. And then also, like, just the science. You need 8 hours of sleep. You're going to be a better athlete tomorrow. You're going to be a better person tomorrow. Recognizing that.
Absolutely. It strikes me that, even every area of your life, I think of this in managing here at Focus on the Family. Up on the table, get everything into the light. If we've made a mistake, let's talk about it so we can correct it. Same is true for parenting. Okay, I've made a mistake. I want to get this up on the table. It's a great demonstration for your children to see you doing that. And it allows them a mechanism to say the same thing.
Bring it into the light.
Bring it
That's
into the
one
light,
of the things
always.
we say all the time.
Yeah.
And I also want to say, parents, Christian parents, if you found something on your kid's phone and you're just disappointed, listen, if we have not talked to them about that, we're partly to blame, and we have to own that. That's not giving a scapegoat to your kids. But what I have found working with these families is sometimes if parents will fess up, then eventually the kids will be like, yeah, I should have known better. Yeah. And they'll own their part. And then we can come together and heal together as a team.
Well, that's so good. We have rapid fire endings here because we have Plugged In, which can help parents and children at the right age. They can start reading the reviews of games and movies and all kinds of things, technology included. And that's there available for you at our pluggedin.com website. And then we've got this great book by Mandy Majors, Keeping Kids Safe in a Digital World, a solution that works. And all the parents said, amen. And because, again, everybody's looking for help on this. You're not alone. You might feel like you're alone, but believe me, most parents are struggling with this. And then today, if you can make just a one-time gift or a monthly pledge, we'll send you the book as our way of saying thank you for being part of the ministry. And we'll get this out to you in that way. We're also hoping that we can get 1,000 sustainers for the monthly pledge. If you can become part of that 1,000, that would be great. Gene and I support Focus that way. I know
we
you
do
and
as
Dina.
well. Yeah.
So let's have some fun. Let's do ministry together. But let's help as many parents as possible to help their children navigate technology.
Donate generously as you can, either a monthly pledge or a one-time gift of any amount. When you call 800, the letter A in the word family, or follow the links in the program description below. And on behalf of the entire team, thanks for joining us today for Focus on the Family with Jim Daly. I'm John Fuller, inviting you back next time as we once again help you and your family thrive in Christ.